So it has now been made official, and we have 3 months before this ends. But what is it? Well, I'm going to address that in today's video. First off, since 2020, the U.S. has issued trillions of dollars in stimulus-related funds. We have sent up to $600 per week in enhanced unemployment benefits. The U.S. has issued Americans up to $3,200 in direct payments through stimulus checks. Businesses have received billions of dollars just to keep employees working throughout the past few years. Airlines received funding. States got billions and billions of dollars to help with the pandemic and infrastructure, and the list seriously goes on and on. But everything started based off an announcement on January 31st, 2020. That was 3 years ago. However, based off of a recent statement, these benefits are now going to end. Here's what we know. On Monday, January 30th, again, almost 3 years to the day, that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced a public health emergency, the Biden administration stated that it would terminate the public health emergency and national emergencies declared because of the pandemic. They will end these on May 11th, 2023. So again, we have 3 months of benefits before it ends. Now, what does this mean? Well, first off, millions of student loan holders are hoping to get an answer from the Supreme Court as to whether or not the Biden administration has the legal authority to cancel up to $10,000 in student loan debt. We don't know, but we should get an answer at the end of February. Now, currently, the Biden administration is fighting for student loan forgiveness under a legal case made possible only by the public health emergency. So if the public health emergency ends before this is decided, then it removes all legal authority, which is why the Biden administration is attempting to give the courts as much time as possible and push this back even further. We were expecting the middle of April, but now it is May 11th, so a little bit more. Now, there's also much more to the public health emergency than just student loan forgiveness. The public health emergency, this also allows hospitals and other healthcare providers, it gives them more flexibility to work with patients, especially during times of high case counts. But the Biden administration says that the United States needs to move away from the pandemic as a national crisis, and instead we need to treat this more as a seasonal respiratory disease. That is what they're saying. Now, I addressed this the other day, and I talked about how Republicans were attempting to completely end the public health emergency, but do so immediately, not wait 3.5 months. Do so immediately. Well, the White House says that they disagree with the House's approach, but again, of course they would. Republicans are attempting to stop the student loan forgiveness, and the Biden administration is trying to keep hope alive with the Supreme Court. So that is why they don't want to end it today, but push it off about 3.5 months. So we'll see what happens there. Now, something that millions of people will be impacted by is this public health emergency ending. And it is because there is a provision within the previous federal spending bill that we just passed, I believe, back in December. And it allows states to start withdrawing people from the Medicaid program in April. But keep in mind, the public health emergency won't end until May. But states can start withdrawing people starting in April. So we got about 2 months, right? Now, the federal funding for this has dried up. And the reason why the Biden administration was attempting to pass an additional $22.5 billion for additional COVID response was to help fund, this provision where we can still pay for people that don't qualify for Medicaid anymore. We could still pay them, give them their benefits, even though they technically don't qualify because they either make too much money or whatever, right? Now, for Democrats, they're still wanting to see additional funding to address COVID. However, this is likely not going to happen anytime soon. So that's what's interesting about this is we're going to see what happens moving forward. What I can tell you is the lack of funding, and then with Republicans holding the majority in the House, we got Democrats holding the majority in the Senate, and we got President Biden, who is a Democrat. With a mixed Congress, it's almost impossible to get something done, especially something as controversial as COVID funding, right? So we'll see. Now, what we know is that benefits are going to continue for another 3 months before they find the end. But it is because of this that you are right now that you need to utilize any benefit that you can get. That any benefit that you're currently being offered, utilize it. And understand that it will not last forever. Okay? So you will have to find another option moving forward. Now, why is this such a big deal? First off, a lot of people are going to lose any health coverage that they're getting. For people that were doing, they're doing those teleconferences or telehealth where they could go and see a doctor over the internet, right? And again, paid for by the U.S. government. Well, a lot of this is going to end, okay? If you want to go and get a vaccine, well, guess what? You're going to have to do it soon, because pretty soon the U.S. government is going to stop paying for it. So pretty soon you will have to use your health insurance. Some healthcare providers will not cover a vaccine. Most will, but some won't. And if yours won't, according to Pfizer and Moderna, they're both going to be charging about $130 for a single vaccine. So right now, you get it for free. Well, pretty soon, you're going to have to pay $130 anytime you want to go and get it. So for some people, that's not going to be feasible. They will not be able to do it. And so that's what I'm saying. If you need to make plans to go and get one now, well, maybe you want to go and do it right now before you have to pay for it. Now, here's something else that I just want to address. A lot of this funding that we've received over the past 3 years, it is drying up. We're not going to see the coffers refilled, right? We're not going to see more funding coming in. This isn't going to happen because the United States, even though we were technically in a recession, and some are expecting we are going to dip back into one. Well, even though this is the case, a lot of times lawmakers aren't going to be able to pass anything. They're not going to get any additional funding unless we can make cuts. Well, that's exactly what Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden are going to address this week, actually tomorrow. They're going to figure out whether or not there is a path forward for negotiations in order to raise the debt ceiling. Because if we can't raise the debt ceiling, the only option is to reduce spending. And that's something that Democrats are firmly against, is to reduce spending. But that might be the only option. So if we're going to see any additional relief, for the American people or whatever, well, we got to reduce spending somewhere. The money has to come from some place that is currently being distributed, because we can't pass anything new. So that's what we know at this time. As always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates again. Thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.